Hey guys, can we get a round of applause for Colin? All right, still waiting on the table mics, I guess, to come alive, so I'm going to use this wireless microphone for now. Awesome. Well, welcome to PRGE. It feels weird saying that. This is my first time, so hopefully all of you guys are having a great time. I am. My name is Alisaie Summerfield. This is Sam Wright. We're going to be moderating this panel, and this is Colin Ryan and Bethan Walker. Let's test it.
Yeah, I don't think they're on.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Oh, these on.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going, everyone?
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you all. Yeah, good to see you.
That's it. Bye. Thank you for coming. It's really, really lovely to be here. It's our first time in Portland, so we're having a lovely time.
Oh, hang on. We're going to be sharing mics, aren't we?
That's okay. Why don't we use these?
Okay. We'll put it with like a two-headed
His and
dragon.
hers.
His and hers microphones. We're good.
Hey. Yeah, that'd be great. It's like we went to a drag show last night, and there were technical problems, weren't there? So we kind of, reliving that. Yeah. Hey.
Brought them with you.
With less glitter.
Yes. But it was amazing. It was at Blackwater Bar. Do you know that place? Really cool. This is our first time in Portland, so we're really excited. We arrived a bit earlier, so we actually did some exploring, went to the Japanese gardens, which was stunning. And you guys have some amazing restaurants here as well. So cool.
All right, so do you guys want to get into it? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Cool. Well, I'm assuming everyone is here for Final Fantasy XIV, so welcome. So considering what we're going to be talking about, I wanted to ask you guys, I know we talked a little bit about this when we first started chatting, but I'm super curious, what are you guys' experiences with Final Fantasy, but also like with video games in general? Like, did you have any experience before you came on, or is this all new? I'd love to hear about it.
Okay, I'm going to be really honest. I'm not a gamer. Should I leave? No, I before I auditioned, it was the first video game I'd ever auditioned for. And I'd never played a video game. We were talking about this last night, weren't we, in terms of pitching it right at the audition, because I didn't really know the world that I was entering. So I've learned a lot. My learning curve has been like this. So obviously, dabbled in video games a tiny bit as a kid, but I've never really taken it on. So for me, it's been a real kind of entry into this world, and getting the role, has taught me a lot. I'll tell you that much. You'd played a little bit, right?
Yeah, so, I always knew of Final Fantasy. I think 2001 when the film came out. What was it called? Spirits Within. Spirits Within. Yeah, I remember that coming out. And actually, because I watched the trailer for that a few weeks ago. And I remember at the time when the trailer first came out, I was like, whoa, these graphics are the most realistic thing ever. Then watched it again 2 weeks ago, I was like, what was I thinking? It looks kind of really basic in this day and age. But yeah, so I knew of Final Fantasy, and as a kid, I played a lot of games as a wee kid. So my first console was the Nintendo Famicom. Yeah. So I played. I think it was Mario was on that. Some sort of spacey game. And then we had a PlayStation 1. We played, what was it? Tomb Raider, Spyro the Dragon, things like that. Then we had a PC and we had Doom on that. I loved Doom. That was so cool. I still remember IDKFA, isn't it? That's the code to get your ammo. And then, we even had a PlayStation 2. It's only until adult years that I stopped playing games, but as a kid I did play quite a lot, but never Final Fantasy. So yeah, coming into this franchise, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know what the world was like, or like you say, the tone of it. I had no idea really. So yeah, I've since learned a lot And I've recently started, well, I say recently, I've been streaming now for about 5-6 months, I think. So, yay! Oh, thank you.
Where can people find you on, you're on Twitch?
Yes, that's right. I'm on Twitch. My handle is I am Alphinaud.
Yeah!
Yeah, it's really imaginative, isn't it? So yeah, I've been streaming for, like 5 months, a bit sporadically. But yeah, I've got to the end of A Realm Reborn, and so now I'm doing all the patch content.
He's really good at it. You know, like because you know there's like streaming, and he's has anyone watched any? Yeah. So he's really good at it in that he does all the voices, and it's just beautiful and easy, and it's very chill. Your vibe is chill, isn't it? Which I love. But he kind of gives it some in terms of character.
I did. Yeah.
He knows.
You posted about it last week or the other week, and I tuned in. Yeah, very chill, very worth watching.
You should tune in. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I have one quick follow-up, and maybe this is when my Final Fantasy XIV knowledge hole exists, where I can't recall one way or the other. Does anybody know if you guys re-recorded the Realm Reborn version of Alphinaud and Alisaie? Does anyone know? So was it weird hearing someone else's voice come out of your characters' mouths during the beginning of you playing?
A little bit, yeah. Do you know what? When I first came across the twins, it was actually weirdly really emotional. I was like, because I've been with this character and these characters for 10 years at this point, isn't it? So there was something really emotional about finally meeting them. And I mean, I've always known of Sam Riegel's work, and I just love how different his portrayal of Alphinaud was in the first expansion. And I think can I talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we had no idea when we auditioned for the game that we would. Oh, hello. Is that? Are we good? I had no idea that we would be auditioning for Final Fantasy XIV. We were just auditioning for some random game, because it's all very heavily kind of coded and NDA'd and very secretive. So they didn't tell us that there was another voice actor. That
was going to be my next question. Is did you know you were auditioning to replace?
No, not at all. And so because of that, we went in doing our own interpretation, own version of the character. So I think if they did tell me that Sam Riegel had voiced it before, I would probably have kind of researched it and listened to voice clips and tried to emulate that, but I'm so glad that I didn't.
And also, I think we probably would have overthought why we've been brought in, so it was lovely because we were coming in kind of knowing, because we signed an NDA, you genuinely don't know what you're auditioning for. You have no idea. They give you, so we get an image like that, and we get sort of 3-line biography, and you don't get the character's name or the game's name. So you can kind of, now when we have auditions, we're like, I can totally work this out. You can work it out. But at the time, we knew nothing. So it was lovely because we came in fresh and we had to just read instinctively based on the lines we were given. And we were given sort of maybe 4 lines, each with a different emotional intensity, and obviously because they needed to know what we could do, right? And that we could touch on those different emotional kind of arcs. So yeah, I think it was kind of nice that we didn't know anything, I think.
What was recording in the booth like? Because I know depending on the production, it can be you record by yourself in a little separated thing, or sometimes did you record together? Were you by yourselves? How was the process like?
So we record separately. We always have. We've never, ever, ever said a line like this, ever, in our whole, nigh on 10 years, which is an extraordinary thing, because actors are, we go to drama school, right, and we train for 3 years, and we learn how to look each other in the eye, and we talk about acting being about listening and responding and bouncing off of each other. So it's a really counterintuitive thing to then go into a booth and stare at a big laptop, essentially, with lines on. And so we have to dig pretty deep sometimes, don't we, to find that truth. And I think that's what we're really blessed in that quite often we'll go in, and Colin will have done some lines before me. So I might be, if I'm lucky, I might hear a couple. But it's been a big learning curve in terms of hitting the level of emotional intensity or the kind of quippy, witty stuff at the right pitch and tone without another actor to look at. What would you say?
Yeah, exactly that. It's it can be quite an isolating experience because you are just literally saying your own lines, obviously. And because of that, a lot of it is out of context as well. So we rely heavily on the director and the producers who are voices in our head calling in from Japan to give us context about the lore and the background of the characters and relationships. So it is a skill, isn't it? It is tricky. And yeah, like you say, it's such a godsend when you've been in before so that they can feed me my cue lines, and it is a bit more like kind of doing a scene. But otherwise, yeah, we just record our own lines. And also that means that our knowledge of the game is kind of really patchy, because if there are scenes or like quests where it focuses on Alisaie, I would have no idea what went on in that bit of the story. So that's why it's fun playing the game, especially Realm Reborn, which we didn't record, obviously. Yeah, I've been kind of playing that fresh and experiencing the story as a newbie, which has been amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you guys ever make up for lost time from work and just meet and then stare at each other in silence?
Just like hug for a long time. We do you know what? Like, we talk about this quite a lot, I do anyway. We didn't know when we were cast in this game that we would be traveling together for the next 10 years. Like, we didn't know that. And we didn't meet for years and years and years. I mean, when did we meet? How many years ago, roughly? So only 3 years ago. So which is really strange. And we used to have the same agent, so I used to see his headshot up on the wall, like 1980s. But I was obviously aware of Colin and his work and his career and his reputation. But now, we're friends and we travel together, and it's intense. We do big stuff together, and we're away from our families, and we do count each other ourselves as very lucky, because we now go into the booth with that connection. Even though he's not there, I feel safer, and I feel like I can take more risks as an actor because I know he's got my back, which is really nice.
Yeah, and also it has changed the way that we approach the characters now that we know each other, because we have our own personal friendship, and that does feed into how we voice our lines in the booth now, which is a really lovely thing. Yeah.
I'm super curious, actually. So Sam and I have had the pleasure of talking to like different voice directors and stuff like that, but obviously not your voice director. And so I'm curious, like, how much of it is you guys adding to your character, sort of contributing to the performance and shaping the character, and how much of it is like, this is a Square Enix production, you do exactly what we tell you and nothing else? Like,
I would say it is pretty tight. They do give quite specific direction, because it has to align with what the animation is doing. And the animation, of course, we don't ever see. We don't have any kind of like video, apart from a few scenes where it's kind of like close-ups and they need to be lip-synced very closely. Apart from that, we don't see any video. But so they make it very specific, don't they? And sometimes we have to do like one line kind of 10, 20 times before we get it right, before they're happy with it. Yeah.
I think I totally agree. And I haven't told you this yet. I had an experience in the booth recently, that may be years ago or recently, I don't know. And I've realised I've grown in confidence as an actor and we know the team now. We know the dev team really well. So there was one particular line, which I can't say yet, but where I kind of said, I gave a read, and they were like, great. And then I gave another read, and I was like, what about this? And I think I'm now getting a little bit braver in the booth, not crossing a line, because we utterly respect the team, and they know way more than we do about this game. But I'm getting a little bit bolder, like going, hey, but what if she said it like this? And they were like, oh, that's interesting. So I think we'll probably get to that point now where we can actually start to give, because we really know these characters. We really, really do. And yeah, I just had a moment of real tenacity in the booth, and I was like, but what about this? And what they often do is they'll take an alt, so they'll take one line, and then they'll take an alt with a slightly different tone, and then we leave it in their hands, and they decide what goes in the game, you know?
So you mentioned that you've met and you've built this friendship and everything, and I was wondering, you said that informed how you now read the lines now that you know each other more closely. What other types of inspirations do you bring into the booth with you when you record? Do you have any like thoughts or like pre-game rituals that you do before to get in the mindset of the characters, or what do you bring in there with you to kind of get hyped up?
Yeah, so I tend to watch a lot of the cutscenes on YouTube just to kind of remind myself of what I sound like, and just to kind of get into the world a bit as well. But in terms of like preparation before I go in the booth, like a vocal warm-up beforehand, I mean, nothing kind of like spiritual or anything like that in terms of that kind of preparation. It's more kind of technical, because it is a very technical exercise doing voice acting. So you have to make sure that you're very well warmed up, that your articulation is on point, because the kind of emotions that these characters have been on means that the voices have to go to kind of extremes. So you have to make sure that your instrument is well warmed so that you can go to those places.
A lot of how now, brown cow. You just
How now, brown cow.
New York.
Oh, I'm useless at those. I totally agree. It is very, very technical. And actually, within one session, you know, we do sessions from 1 hour to 4 or 5 hours, don't we? Possibly longer. And yes, you do have to hit different levels of intensity within your voice. And we're both starting to talk about the longevity of our career and needing to protect our voices, because we both sing and we both do other games, and so we need to really look after our voices long term. The other thing, I think, is that I've learned to leave my stuff at the door and go in and do. I know we all know this from work, don't we? Sometimes we come in and we're like, you know, kind of carrying what we have outside the door in our real lives. So I'm learning to do that, and sometimes to park what's going on at home or whatever other stuff may be going on with my other work, and sometimes using it. You know, we can use it as fuel as actors. So if we've got a big, like, ragey scene, you know, we can dig deep and use what we've got. You know, so it's an interesting process, and it depends on the day and what's appropriate. But we're learning, aren't we?
And I'm also curious too, Final Fantasy XIV in general, the voices of most of the characters is very British coded, like lots of that kind of accent. I'm curious, how is it going into the booth having your accent but knowing that you have to crank it up and change it to be different? Like, what is it like having to shift your own accent to then do the same accent but fantasy?
Do you have to become super British when you're in the booth?
Yeah, super British.
Yeah. We were talking about this morning. So I'm from Birmingham originally, which is in the middle of the UK, in the Midlands, and that accent is very different to the accent that I do for Alphinaud. So Alphinaud speaks with an RP accent, which stands for received pronunciation, which is basically like Queen's English, a posh English. So in that sense, yeah, it is kind of cranked up. And also, I suppose that kind of aligns with the tone of the game as well. Because the writing as well, there's a very kind of almost Shakespearean element to the writing, which lends itself well to that kind of accent. So it's kind of leaning into that kind of more classical tone as well, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the twins are quite close to us. They're not caricatures. You know, I think we were cast because we brought a bit of truth in our. I remember my audition, and I remember them saying, just like cut the acting and just say it. You know, just like say it from your heart, and that's really helped me in terms of accent-wise. My accent is reasonably. I'm Welsh originally, but it's reasonably neutral. But we do have to elevate it, and we're quite mindful of vowels. So when you go in, they'll often play you 2 or 3 lines of the recording you did previously, so to match that. But yeah, I think they're very close to us, Ali and Alfie. And there are characters, of course, who are far bigger and grander in Final Fantasy, which are very, very. Those voices would be very different from the actor's voice. But it's still it's a finite tune, but we do have to tune it.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Yeah, we were talking ahead of the panel, and we both sort of looked at each other, and we were like, "Yeah, do they like? I don't know. Like, do you add a little extra spice to the voice? Like, but that's wonderful." Yeah. So I guess sort of speaking more towards like the British side of the conversation, considering that you guys primarily like you live all the way over there, how many sort of like fan events have you been to that are more like regional to where you are versus like here in the United States, and just in general, like how many sort of Final Fantasy things do you do now that you're in it?
I mean, it has only just picked up really in the past few years. That we've been doing all this kind of stuff. And actually, it's almost getting to the point where we're doing as many in North America than we are in the UK. Yeah, which is bizarre. We love it. We love traveling. We love meeting all you guys. The community is incredible, and you have been so supportive. And yeah, we're always overwhelmed by just how lovely and kind this community is. And we have done, we're kind of like also leaning into opportunities that present themselves as a result of being in this game. So Husky, is it Husky by the Geek or and the Geek? By the Geek, Husky. He asked us to sing on a video of his, and I've been a big fan of his for ages. So to get asked to sing Closing the Distance with Husky and his genius mind was incredible, and we were so privileged to be a part of that, weren't we?
Yeah, and we're finding that we're meeting, we've spent some time with Amanda and Jason, who obviously also sing. So we're beginning to sort of meet more people and, of course, more of the actors. And so we're getting a more sort of well-rounded experience of it now. But yeah, there's these live concerts. You went to one, Final Fantasy Live.
I went to the Eorzean Symphony, I think it was, in London, which was incredible. It was so cool. So yeah, Amanda sung there as well as Jason. All the big hits. It was incredible. And actually, I think there was Distant Worlds concert, which we were invited to this weekend, but obviously we're here. That's like Final Fantasy VII music. But I think they've just announced Distant Worlds are doing a 14 and 16, I think, concert in the UK next year.
I went to that at Carnegie Hall, and it was amazing. So you should totally do that.
Oh, we'd love to. Yeah. We just, love being involved in this community. So, yeah.
Specifically for you, since you've been streaming it, streaming games on Twitch can be precarious sometimes. How's that been? How's the community been on chat and all the other stuff, like monitoring that? How's that been for you?
Really lovely. Yeah. Precarious in what way? Like, what do you mean by that?
I think precarious is a kind word for it. It can get kind of toxic, a little trolly sometimes.
Oh yes,
but
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So I have I have a great group of mods who kind of keep an eye on things, but also I think because my style is kind of very chilled, and I think it attracts a certain audience as well who are just generally nice people. So yeah, I haven't had any problems. It's just been really lovely. So I did a charity stream for my last stream, raising money for Great Ormond Street Hospital, which is an incredible hospital in London, which is specifically caters for seriously ill children. So I fundraised for them to build a new children's cancer wing, which is going to do some amazing work. And in the stream, which ended up being like 6 hours or something, that's my longest stream ever.
That's got to be exhausting.
It was so exhausting. But we ended up raising £7,800.
That's awesome. Round of applause. That's awesome.
Thank you. I have no idea what that is in dollars, but it's a lot of money. So yeah, the community's, again, just been incredibly kind and generous and supportive.
Yeah, I think shameless pat on the back for everybody in this room, but I think Final Fantasy XIV fans tend to be sort of stereotypically very kind. I think that's like the internet stereotype about 14 players, so that's nice to hear.
One of the kindest MMOs.
Cool. Well, I'm going to ask one more question. Sam, I know, has a bunch of Doctor Who questions to ask. And then we want to turn it over to you guys. Obviously, we don't want to monopolize these two indefinitely. But I wanted to ask, I mean, considering the roots of the game and the roots of the company that makes the game and all this other stuff, have either of you ever gone to Japan?
No. Not yet. Neither of us. Yeah, we really would like to. And I think it would be very special to go. I think it would be very special.
You should do it.
Okay, who's going to book a flight for us? No, of course, we'd love to. We'd love to.
There's the Eorzean Cafe, isn't there, which I would love to go to.
I was thinking about food largely when you said that. But yeah, I know Amanda's been, hasn't she? I think, yeah, it would be great.
Still there, yeah. And Jason.
I hate to turn it away from Final Fantasy, but I would be remiss if I did not ask about Doctor Who, because it is a British institution. I think there may be some crossover in this room potentially. Both of you have done work in Doctor Who. I know Beth, you've done a lot of the audio dramas.
Yeah.
And, you were in one of the Peter Capaldi episodes. What is it like doing Doctor Who? Because it's been around for such a long time. It's, like I said, it's an institution. What is it like to kind of go in and do that and be a part of that kind of legacy?
So I've done several of the audiobooks and met several of the doctors, and I don't think I really realised the sort of impact that would have on me until the jobs were done and they were all out. And someone came at the last con we did and bought all the CDs with like all the tracks of these Doctor Who's that I've done. But it is an institution. Do you guys know about Doctor Who? I'm assuming so. Just checking. Good. Otherwise they're all like, what are you talking about? Because it is momentous, and it has been going way. We've worked with actors that have careers, decades longer than ours. And it's a privilege to be a part of it. And it is a really fanciful world, and it's a fun world. And I've played loads of different parts, like doctors and all sorts of funny, different psychologists and all sorts of parts. And I did a Torchwood, which is a sort of spin-off of Doctor Who, which was super fun. And I had my head sliced open, and that was great. So, and that was my first ever telly job, actually. I came out of Welsh College. And it was, and even that, just having to deal with the technicality of lots of tubes, and it was very, very, very technical, the scene that I did. And I was rigged with like blood pouches everywhere, and had loads of prosthetics on. And so for me, it's always just been an amazing memory. And you did a Doctor Who itself, didn't you?
Yes. I was in an episode called Knock Knock with Peter Capaldi, David Suchet, another British acting legend. Pearl Mackie was the assistant, and Bill. Yeah, I had an amazing time, and that came at a moment when I had 9 months of nothing, of no acting work whatsoever, no auditions. Like it was like almost close to kind of doing something else, like giving up acting and doing something else. So when that call came to say that I was cast in Doctor Who, I think I screamed down the phone to my agent. I was over the moon.
Thank God for Doctor Who.
Yeah, and it was just the best experience. Peter Capaldi is the loveliest human. He's just such a down-to-earth, really kind, humble man, so talented. And I learned a lot from working with him. His work ethic. He would come in with like a massive folder of all the episodes of that season. Because usually when you rock up on a TV set, you just come in with the sides, the scenes for that day, but he would come in with the whole series. And he would be like referring back to other episodes to kind of make links, and then kind of making notes everywhere. Yeah, he was gorgeous. And like between setups on filming days, he would go out and when we're on location, he'd go out and see fans who had gathered to to come and get a peek, and he'd take selfies and things with them. You know, he was very generous with his time. Yeah.
That's great. So I totally lied to everybody in this room. I have one more question. Considering that you guys have done some super storied franchises at this point, Final Fantasy, Doctor Who, pretty big stuff. What's another one that you would like? What's on your like wish list? Like number one thing? Like what character or world or what have you would you want to do?
It's a tricky one. I'm really excited by games like Elden Ring. I think there's lots of. I mean, we're actors. We like to be versatile, but there are some very very beautiful games out there, and we've been so immersed in Final Fantasy. We do always wonder like what's next. What's next for us? Baldur's Gate. I was thinking about Tracy Walls, who plays Jaheira. There are some amazing parts out there, and we just don't know what's coming. But I love a challenge. I love a challenge, and I'd love to play a villain one day, like a proper villain. Yeah. I know Alisaie has her moments, doesn't she? But yeah, I'd love to play something really character-led and quite dark. That'd be fun.
I want to see that. So you should do that.
Totally. I'd love to do something in the Marvel Universe or like Star Wars. Peter Parker kind of vibes. I would love to do something like that. Thank you. But in terms of like a kind of like dream role, like Richard II, Shakespeare, very different to this, but yeah, that's like an absolute dream role. But as actors, we like the variety, and like you say, being challenged and pushed. So, bring it on, whatever it is. Yeah, we're open to it.
Well, you're about to be in Little Shop of Horrors, aren't you?
Oh yes, I am. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I'll be playing Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors, in a theatre in the UK called Sheffield. So if you find yourself in Sheffield this Christmas, come and say hi. It's selling out already. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm over the moon about that. That is a kind of dream role. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Stoked.
Congratulations. Before I turn it over to you guys, can we just get a round of applause for these two? Since I've never done this part before, I'm gonna walk among you, and I'm gonna hand the mic to whoever has a hand up. So we're gonna do it that way, just because I think it's a little easier. So I'm gonna sacrifice myself to the crowd. It was nice sharing a table with you. And yeah, so does anybody have any questions right off the bat? Okay, very cool. I do want to prime one thing. So Bethan and Colin, specifically as they've already mentioned, are not super like lore hounds. So please don't. Yeah, so please don't ask like, I don't know, like when Alisaie was 12, what did her father say to her?
I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, so I saw green shirt first, so.
If you want to crowd surf Alessia while he's out there. Yeah. Okay. So the events of the game are kind of displayed as a quick succession of things that happen one after another, but obviously there are several years in between expansion releases. Can you speak to the difficulties between direction and performance of how to retain the same quality voice to avoid like an obvious jump whenever you go from like one patch to the next, or even like one set of recordings to like, post expansion recordings?
That's a great question. A lot has happened since we started recording this game. I've had 2 children since I started recording Alisaie.
Congratulations.
My babies. But seriously, a lot of life happens, right? And it's a technical skill to be able to come back and actually voice match your own voice. Obviously, our voices haven't changed a huge amount in that time, but I would say there are probably things that we do with our bodies and we do with our voices to kind of check in, like when we get there, even the way we stand and the way we approach the mic. I think that technical skill of coming back and matching that is really, really important. They do give us a little play-in, which really helps. But Colin's right, we absolutely go back and listen to stuff and just tune into it, because I think our job is to be as accurate as we possibly can. But I would also say the directors are encouraging us to be bolder with our performances, and I'm slightly dreading to you getting to us in Heavenswood, because I think we've learned a lot since then about performance. Slightly dreading it, because I think we have grown a lot, and we have matured a lot, and we've learned a lot about truth as actors. Anything to add to that?
Not really. No, you said it all.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Nice.
go.
Any other questions near me first? Okay, you, sir. Is that skulls and pentagrams and cats? Love your shirt. All right, here you go.
Hi, so I tried doing voice acting myself, and I'm trying to get myself out there, and I can probably guarantee there's some people out in here trying to also do the same thing. It's really hard breaking through and trying to find your niche. What would your top suggestion be for trying to get through that barrier? Because it's really high, and with the amount of people trying to now compete with how much video games and anime and things like that are skyrocketing in terms of voice acting, how do you suggest putting yourself above other people to try and like elevate yourself up more?
That is a tricky one, especially as we don't know what the American market is like. It's a very different setup in the UK. So although we're voice actors, we are actors in general. So in the UK, it's very different, where we do voiceovers, we do theatre, we do television, we do everything. So more specifically about being a voice actor, I would say practice your craft, really work on your voice and explore what your voice can do, and what characters your voice fits as well, because there's no point pitting yourself against someone who can do a certain thing really well. You might be really interested in kind of playing a really gruff villain or something, but if your voice doesn't kind of naturally go there, then there's no point in kind of directing yourself in that direction. So I say play to your strengths, practice voice warm-ups, really look after your instrument, and keep going. It is a tough industry. And like for me, I didn't have a voice agent for years and years. I was writing to voice agencies for 7 years running, unsuccessfully. And I was just very lucky with Final Fantasy that the director I had worked with at drama school. So that was my way in. So luck had a lot to do with that. But yeah, I don't know. What would you say?
I would also say something I've learned, learned the hard way, is sell yourself. You know, selling ourselves is really uncomfortable. And I think so many people assume that because you're in the performance industry, you're super extroverted and incredibly confident. And of course, most of us aren't. That's the truth. We're not. Yeah, we believe in our talent, but do we want to really push ourselves to the front? Probably not. But I haven't had a huge amount of luck with agents, you know, over the years either. However, I have learned that tenacity and persistence is powerful, and I've just refused to give up and just continue being bold with your emails and bold. We used to write letters, do you remember? I used to write letters. I used to send a printed CV and type it out with my mum and dad. But yeah, just tenacity to keep going and believing in your craft. And I now walk into studio and I do think, I've worked really hard to get here. You know, I graduated in 2006, and I've had many years unemployed. And I mean that, many. And I'm talking full years of no work at all. So keep going and be bold, because I think with every 50 emails we send, even now, we may get one response if we're lucky. That's the blunt truth. So keep at it.
Actually, another thing I would say, like in the world that we live in now, social media is a really powerful tool. So if you have those tools at your disposal, if you're good at content creation, put up some reels of you doing voices, impressions. If impressions are your thing, like they're really popular online. So, and that is a genuine way that people get discovered, because you often see a lot of kind of influencer types, content creators, going on to be in TV shows and video games and the rest of it. So, yeah. Just another thing.
All right, I think we've got time for one more. I want to look at these people over here. Sir.
So what expansion has been that you enjoyed the most voice acting?
Can I have two? I think we had a very significant moment in Endwalker at the end, in terms, and I think that's come from the history of the twins, you know. And I think we knew when we went into the booth, like with that prison scene, it was very powerful for us. And of course, yes, recording individually, but we now understand when we meet you guys at the desk, you know, we come for signings and we hear what it means and how many hundreds of hours you've played. So I think that also now feeds into when we record these scenes, why they're special to us, because we know what they mean to you, you know. And I also had a scene very, very early on, I think was the moment I kind of, when Alisaie was under a starry sky and she was talking about her grandfather. And I think for me, that was a moment when I kind of thought, okay, wow, I'm playing Alisaie in Final Fantasy, this is cool, you know, which was, yeah, special for me.
Yeah, I would say Endwalker was my favourite expansion to record, just because of the emotional depth that went to, which is, as an actor, you just love going to those places. I also really enjoy, I always forget which expansion it was, all the stuff with Avor 3, Dulia Chai. What expansion was that? Shadowbringers. Yeah, love that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I think there were a lot of comedic elements in that, which I enjoyed doing. So, yeah.
Man, I am a big liar today. We have time for one more, actually. So, I think.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming to our home. That was very unexpected, so I really appreciate you coming. I have a very simple question. When would you say you came to realize you were attached to, you know, Alphinaud and Alisaie? That you went, oh, this is, like, feeding off from your answer before, when this is my character versus, you know, just a recording job?
I think two parts to that. One, when we first did a convention, if I'm honest, it's when it genuinely deepened that connection, when we realised what these characters mean. Because of course we see what we record in the booth, but we're beginning to understand the depths of the world that we don't see. So there was that, and that meant when we then went into re-record other stuff, it just had a whole other level of depth and importance to us. I think also growing bolder in studio and realizing that actually we do know these characters really, really well, and we've recorded years of it now. So I'm finding this new, like I talked about before, just finding this new courage in studio, because I feel as if I never walk into studio and think, how am I going to do my Alisaie lines today? They just come out because they're in, you know, they're kind of in me now, and I think at the start I put it on like an outfit. I was like, okay, I'm going to put her on. And now I feel like we live and breathe these characters, even though we're not in studio that much, of course, through the year. But I feel like there's a knowingness now, like we know them really, really well. What would you say?
Yeah, for me, I think it's an ongoing thing, actually. So the first time that I really became aware of the reach of this game and this character is when my brother, he told me that his friend at work had a tattoo of Alphinaud, which blew my mind, because I thought, this is just like a little game. I mean, but it turns out like just a tiny little thing.
I'm so sorry, but on that note, I think we got to wrap up.
We got to wrap up. Okay, yes.
If you guys have any questions that I was not able to grab for the panel, please come see them at their table and get an autograph. They're great. Come say hi. But yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and here are a few more videos for you to check out.